Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm gonna talk to you guys about how I think sleep is just enormously psychological. So for the past few weeks or so, I put a lot of effort into improving my sleep. So I got into quite a bad cycle of well, not bad necessarily, but I was staying up quite late, and I wanted to get back onto a sort of morning schedule, and it was going really well. I was putting a lot of work into this. Was making sure I was going on long walks to knacker me out. Getting sunlight at the right times, seeing the sunset, um, and winding down before bed and stuff like that. And what do you think happened? Do you think my sleep improved or got worse? Well, surprisingly, it actually got worse. Um, and that's not to. I don't put that down to a lack of effectiveness of the methods I was using. I put it down instead to a more fundamental thing that I was doing wrong. And that was that there was a lot of anxiety that I had around sleep. Because while I was doing these fantastic habits, I went on read long walks, so I'd be tired in the evening, avoiding screens as much as possible, meditating, all this kind of stuff. I was, all the time, I was doing it with a massive regard to how it would improve my sleep. That was my main that's all I was thinking about really throughout the day, was what can I do to improve my sleep. And this is bad news, guys. This is bad news. So what ends up happening is for me, what ended up happening for me is that my sleep was much worse than it was when I was on a sort of bad sleep schedule, and I wasn't really doing any habits to improve my sleep, because I was massively anxious about how well I slept. I'd be lying in bed, I was like, if I get sleep now, I'll get exactly, 8 hours, did all this kind of stuff, and it just destroyed my sleep. And I got on the phone with someone today. But the point I'm getting at really is just, I think the biggest thing to do to improve your sleep, really, this might sound quite weird, I guess it depends what sort of person you are, but I think, especially for me, the best thing you can do for your sleep is realise that you can go without it. And this is slightly why I dislike some of Matthew Walker's, I guess not really opinions, but the way he presents sleep, is it doesn't do people a lot of good to panic about getting lack of sleep. Yes, it's important, but it's much better to look at the positives of getting sleep than looking at the negatives of not getting sleep. And I'm someone who's massively for seeing the negative side of stuff when you need to, because I think negative stuff is a great motivator. But when it comes to sleep, I think it does no one any good to just be panicking about not getting enough sleep and I'm going to get cancer if I don't sleep and stuff like this. And there's this other author who wrote a book sort of as a follow-up to Matthew Walker's. I can't remember what it's called, but I remember reading a bit of it. And I think it's called How to Sleep. And Matthew Walker's book's called Why We Sleep, I think. So it's, but anyway, he said a big problem with the world now is that we worry too much about how much sleep we get. And he was like, there's this kind of idea we have that, back in the day, before the electric light bulb, everyone got loads of sleep. They'd just get up and go to bed with the sun. And I think that was true for a lot of the time, especially if you lived on a farm or something. But I think urban life has always been somewhat at odds with our natural circadian rhythm. I think part of being a human really is that we have we can break out of our circadian rhythm, and he was saying there are documents in sort of the Tudor era and stuff of people saying that the average man only needs 6 hours of sleep, 7 hours if he's really on points, and 8 hours if he's a bit lazy. which is obviously bad advice, but it indicates that it's not a recent thing that sleep is so we're sleeping less, and so it's not, we shouldn't panic so much about it, because we've always had, we've survived from having poor sleep in the past, and I think it's important to remember that. And even going back to caveman times, we had this kind of image of like, oh, we'd all settle down at sunset and go to sleep, and I'm sure it's the truth a lot of the time, but half the time, some of the time, like there were fucking giant saber-toothed tigers, who would be sort of hunting us down, during the night, and we'd have to be awake to evade danger, right? And that's why we get anxious when we haven't slept, because it's our brain thinks we're in that primal state of being deprived of sleep, where because we're being pursued by a predator. Like, I just think the point I'm getting at is your sleep doesn't have to be 100%. It's not the end of the world if you don't get fantastic sleep. But that can be true, and it could also be true that it's well worthwhile pursuing it and improving it. Like, the two things are true, and I think the mistake I've made in the past is I've thought, I need to improve my sleep. That's true. Therefore, it's really bad that I am not sleeping well. It's horrendous news that I'm sleeping badly. I think I'd change that slightly. I think it's really important to get good sleep, but it doesn't matter if I get bad sleep. And that's how I try and think about things now. And I was just, I had a really bad night's sleep last night, actually, and I woke up with a headache. And I suppose this shows you how sort of, what's the words? How hypochondriac I get about these things. But I started worrying I had sleep apnea, because I was watching a lot of stuff online about it and how common it is. And the headache kind of felt like I was sort of short of breath. Anyway, I called someone up and on NHS 111, and I kind of realised as I was talking to them, I was sort of describing my sleep pattern and stuff, and I was just like, and she kind of said this at the end. It's like, actually, no, I'm just stressed. That's why I'm getting bad sleep. So obviously all this stuff sounds very useful, but how am I planning to change my life in light of this, and how might you do the same? Well, I'm just thinking, and this is something I've said before on the channel, is if you can't get to sleep at night, sometimes it's the best thing to tell yourself, really. Like, people say, oh, go up and stretch and do some reading and stuff like that. I think the best thing to do is just say, I'm just going to firm it. I'm just going to lie in bed until I have to get up, until the alarm goes off. And if that means I'm lying here awake until my alarm goes off, then that's really annoying, but so be it. If you do that, you'll just, for when I've done that in the past, and really, it's difficult to really like convince yourself that is what you're going to do. But once you do that, you're just out like a light every time for me. But it's a weird psychological trick that you play. But that's something that's worked for me. And even if it doesn't work, that's still a great course of action. And the thing you can tell yourself if you're not sleeping, drifting off sleep, is just, it doesn't matter if I'm getting bad sleep or not, because I've still got to get up and do my work, and it's still possible to it's not going to kill me to get one bad night's sleep here and there, or even a few bad nights of sleep. People survive this. It's you've got to get it in perspective, right? I've done all the basic things to get my sleep good, and that's all that matters. And it's so true. It's so true. And there was one other thing I was going to add, but I can't remember. Um, yeah, I guess that's it. Just so not giving a shit about it, basically, not giving a shit about it. But the main takeaway I just want to give you is just, I think sleep for me has been an incredibly psychological thing. It's very psychologically dependent, and I think where I'm going to see the most improvement in my sleep is where I'm actually improving my psychology towards it. That's going to be the real killer in terms of improving my sleep. I think all the other stuff that I'm doing, like watching the sunsets, having a shower, they're really effective, but they're only effective on top of a good attitude towards sleep, where I can kind of go with or without it. I mean, it's funny. I'll just finish on this. It's kind of like being attractive to girls. I think you can be the best looking guy in the world, but if you don't have a sort of abundance mentality towards dating and you come across as a bit needy, all this kind of stuff, if you don't have the right attitude towards dating, it doesn't matter how good looking you are or how much money you make or how fit, how good your aesthetics are. It doesn't matter because the girls will smell a rat. They'll see that you're desperate and they'll run away from you. And I think it's not a bad idea to look at sleep in a similar way. Just to do everything you can to get it good, but don't give a shit about whether you get it or not. Enjoy it when it comes, and even thrive in its absence. So, thanks for watching, guys. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to do a lot more stuff about sleep in the future because it is still something that I'm improving. Even if I'm sort of change my attitude to it slightly, it's still like the main thing I think that needs improving in my life. So watch out for more videos of this ilk. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.